If you want great audio, but you don't want to have to sit this close to your camera, in that case, you don't want to use the microphones that are built into your camera. They're not the best mics anyway. You want to use an external mic, and the easiest one to use is the one that I have on right now. This microphone is called a lavalier mic, aka a lav mic for short, and it clips onto your shirt, and that's really convenient because then the microphone's real close to your mouth. You can get that nice audio. Then you plug the end of this mic cable into your camera's microphone port. Now, not all cameras have a microphone port, but if yours does, you can plug this cable into it, and then the audio that this mic records is gonna get automatically added to the video files that your camera records, which is super seamless, and you're gonna get much better audio from this mic than if you were recorded straight from the mics from your camera. So let's just do a little comparison between this lavalier mic and the camera's mic. Right now, you're hearing just the audio from this camera's mic. And now this is what the audio sounds like from this lavalier mic that is plugged into that camera over there. And this lav mic is letting me sit farther back from the camera. So if you want to use this setup, you want to make sure that you have a camera that has a microphone port so you can plug that mic wire into it. But the good news is that you can get a lavalier mic, which is going to give you this immediate upgrade to your audio quality for really cheap. Like, you can get them as cheap as $20 and you can get a good one like this one at that price. Lav mics are nice because they're just so small. So like at this wedding we were filming, we weren't about to be up there with a couple with a big old mic like this, but lav mics are so tiny that you barely even notice them. The downside of lavalier mics is that they are still in the shot, unlike some other microphones that you can get out of the frame, and so that might bother you. And if it does, you can hide a lav mic in all sorts of places, but it takes practice to master hiding a lav mic and having something like fabric touching the mic and not making noise. And so I recommend just clipping it to your shirt, and here's how you do that. So ideally, you want your lav mic to be about 6 to 8 inches from the chin, so somewhere in this region. Next, you want to find this little clamp that your lav mic came with, and you want to attach it to your microphone. And then I'm just going to take this clamp, clip it to Miles' shirt, and I actually don't want this because I feel like it might move and hit this button, and then we're going to have like a little mini drumming situation, too much noise on the mic, so I'm going to go just a little bit lower. But this also is not going to work because look, we got this wire dangling down. This is not cute, and so what I like to do is I like to create a loop with this wire, okay? And then I'm going to take that loop and I'm going to put it inside this clamp. Now with this loop, I am going to attach this to Miles' shirt again, and I'm going to shove that loop and the wire behind his shirt so that the wire is hidden. Okay, now I don't want Miles moving around and the shirt flapping around, and I also don't want anything tugging on this wire because all of that could create noise that I don't want in my recording. And to avoid this, I'm going to use a product called Rycoat stickies and some medical tape to make sure everything is secure. Rycoat stickies are not the cheapest things, but they work really well, and these are just extra steps. You don't have to take these, but when we're doing a client shoot, I want to make sure that we got a foolproof plan, not to mess up that audio. I don't want to waste anybody's time re-recording. So here's what I do with these. I take one of these. They're double-sided, and they have this little layer of foam in between, which kind of acts like padding, which is nice. I'm going to stick one side right here so this wire doesn't move. I definitely don't want anything tugging close to the microphone. Like, that's the most vulnerable spot. And now I'm going to take this off so I get the other sticky side, and I'm going to stick this down so this shirt is not going anywhere. Okay, cool. Now I'm just going to take a little piece of medical tape, and I'm just going to secure this wire a little bit down here. I might put another one right around here, and just make sure that nothing is going to move that wire. I don't want to tug too tight so that if Miles, moves the least little bit, it's going to be tugged. I want to have a little bit of slack, but that is how I would secure a lavalier mic to a button-down situation like this. See, actually now it's still kind of bending down, touching the mic, which I don't like, so I'm going to put another little sticky right up here. You're gonna stay where I tell you to stay. Now, we have conveniently both worn button downs today because I just think it makes putting a lav on a lot easier, but unless you want to sport a button down every day, you can also put a lavalier on another kind of shirt. The easiest way to start with that is just to drop the microphone wire down your shirt and then loop the wire, clamp it on, and then secure it like we did here. If your shirt is too flimsy, especially at the collar area, then you might have a hard time getting that clamp to stay in place and not droop down. You're also gonna have a hard time hiding that wire underneath it. But the bottom line is, no matter what kind of shirt you're attaching a lav mic to, just make sure it is 6 to 8 inches from the chin, that mic is pointed toward the mouth, nothing is touching that microphone or bumping against it. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but this side of my hair has not come down in front of my shoulder this whole time to avoid contact with the mic, so make sure your hair's not touching it, no necklaces, nothing like that. And then also make sure that nothing is tugging against that wire. Now, once you've got your lav mic attached to your shirt, plugged into your camera, there's one more thing I want you to think about before you press record, and that is I want you to check on the audio levels. You can think of audio levels kind of like how sensitive is your microphone to the sound that it's recording. So if your mic is too sensitive, things are going to be too loud. If it's not sensitive enough, they're going to be too quiet. Honestly, audio levels are a little more complicated than that. If you want to Google about them, go ahead, but you don't need to get them right. Now for some cameras, the audio levels are set. They ain't moving, and so if you want any chance of getting decent audio, you better be close to them. Other cameras have auto levels when it comes to audio, so they will automatically adjust the levels based on how loud things are in your scene. And so you do want to test using auto levels before you rely on them, because sometimes they can make your audio sound like a roller coaster that's bouncing around between too loud and too quiet. Finally, some cameras have audio levels that you can set and that you need to set before you press record to make sure that your audio doesn't sound like crap. So here's where we set the audio levels on our camera. You'll see here at the top, we can make them lower or higher. And at the bottom, we've got this meter here that is going to help us get our levels right. So if we set our audio levels here to be way too high, then you're going to start noticing we get all this fuzziness from the room. That meter down there is bouncing way too far over to the right, and it's showing us this scary red warning light which says this audio is not going to sound good, you're not going to be able to use it, it's going to be staticky, and you need to turn this down. Now let's set our audio levels all the way to the bottom, and it actually sounds pretty good since I've got this lavalier mic on. It's close to my mouth, so it's always going to be picking up something. But let's say I was using a different microphone like this that we're going to talk about in a second, and I had it out here. Now, if the audio levels are only at 1 with the mic this far away, then it's going to sound like I'm across the room. We're going to need to boost them up to make sure that they're loud enough so that my voice is really clear. Now I've got this lav mic plugged back in here, and we're going to set these levels until they're just right. So somewhere where my voice sounds loud enough, but the background noise doesn't sound too loud. And so I'm also looking at this meter down here that's showing me the decibels of our audio. I kind of want this to be hovering or averaging between -12 and -6. Now, why are the decibels negative? I don't know. You can go on Google and go down that rabbit hole if you want to, but just remember, you want them averaging somewhere between -12 and -6. You don't want them anywhere near that 0, and you also want to test your levels when you're talking really loud or when you're laughing. Also, whenever you're setting levels, you definitely want to put headphones on, if your camera has a headphone port, that is, because you want to be able to hear all those little background noises to make sure that you're setting your levels right.